Hey, it's Tim Esterdahl, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. I'm in Idaho. I'm with a very, very big Land Cruiser enthusiast. We have a variety of wagons here. We're going to talk to him about the changes in the wagons, improvements in like the powertrain, improvements in the off-road capability, and get down to the end, the big guy at the end, the brand new 2018 Toyota Land Cruiser. So joining me today is
Eric Vogt.
And Eric, is it fair to say you're a big Land Cruiser enthusiast?
Yeah, and I have been for years.
Just a little bit?
Yeah.
Little bit. So what do we have here today? So talk to us about
this first one's a 1973 FJ55. They came out in 1968. They went relatively unchanged until 1980 when they discontinued them. The US, the last ones you'll see are 1979. They have a straight six motor. This one was originally equipped with a 3-speed column shift transmission with a 2-speed transfer case. It's got solid axles front and rear with 410 gears. It's a metric version of the Ford 9-inch. It's a 9-inch ring gear. Manual locking hubs. This one would have had drum brakes originally. This one's been converted to the fronts are disc, and this one also has been converted using a Toyota mini truck to power steering. It would have been manual steering. No air conditioning, vinyl seats, seating for 6. The interesting thing about this truck, kind of as far as power options wise, the rear window is a power window, which is kind of a weird thing when you're talking no frills crank windows, AM radio. This one did not come with a radio. It has a radio delete in the dash, and that's how it came from the factory. The first time I saw this truck was about 20 years ago. It was for a sale for $4,300, and it was absolutely immaculate. My friend Dan Gosh bought it, and he's owned it for the last 20 years, and they used it as a primary family vehicle for most of that time.
Very cool. So what do we got over here?
So this is 84 FJ60. Coming up from the FJ55, this one had the F engine. This has the 2F engine, 135 horsepower, still had a carburetor. Lots of vacuum lines. I think the last time I worked on one, I counted 56 vacuum lines. They just kept adding, Toyota kept adding to meet the US emissions requirements. Same solid front axle setup, came with disc brakes, came with air conditioning. They went away from the vinyl interior to a cloth interior. The rear window is a lift gate rather than the power window in the 55. Power steering was standard. Air conditioning was optional. Most US versions had air conditioning.
And you said we had locking hubs here?
Yep, there's manual locking hubs still. And actually through the next one, the FJ62 model, all of them had manual locking hubs.
Okay, so this is the new one. This is the one you just got painted.
Yes, this one came back from paint 2 days ago. It's not completely assembled yet. It's getting there. This is a 88 FJ62. That was the first year of fuel injection in the Land Cruiser. They went from a 4.3 liter to a 4.0 liter. Still manual locking hubs. This one has a push button shift system. It's run through vacuum. So you can lock the hubs, drive it around in 2-wheel drive, and when you need 4-wheel drive, you press the button on the dash. The high and low is still engaged with a shift lever. The main departure from the 60 series is everything went power. Power windows, power mirrors, power door locks, and they added 3-point seat belts in the rear.
Okay. So we're moving up technology. We're moving up more electronics, more power, and we have the more push-button vacuum lines. Yes,
this is the first soccer mom edition of the U.S. Land Cruisers. Okay, so this is a 1993 FCJ80. It has the 1FC engine, 212 horsepower. They also made the 80 series in 91 and 92 with the 3FE engine with 155 horsepower, the same engine that powered the FJ62. The 1FC is an overhead cam motor. First time they did that in the Land Cruiser. And that came out in 93. Also in 93, ABS became an option. Full floater rear end became pretty much standard. Any truck that had ABS had the full floater rear end. The differential went to a high pinion mini truck style differential. It's a smaller ring gear, but it elevates the drive shaft up. This is the first of the all-wheel drive Land Cruisers. Full-time four-wheel drive Land Cruisers. The transfer cases in the 80 series, they did two different versions. The first version didn't have a viscous coupler. The 93 to 97 had a viscous coupler in it, and basically it acted kind of like a limited slip in the differential in the transfer case. Most 93 to 97s had leather interior and power seats. The other power features carried over from the FJ62, the power windows, power door locks, automatic transmission. In 93, they started an electronic overdrive. This one is equipped with factory electric differential lockers. It was an option. About 7% of all 93 to 97s had electric lockers. That was a huge game changer for people in the off-road crowd. Factory differential locks, instantly traction. They went away from the leaf springs of the earlier models, coils all the way around. So not only do they flex, but then when you need the traction, you turn the little switch and you got your differential locks.
Very cool.
So moving
on to this next generation. Okay, what about this guy?
This is a 2200 series Land Cruiser. The first two things that you notice right away is it has independent front suspension, was a first for the Land Cruisers in the U.S. It also has a V8 engine, also new. This V8 had two different versions in the 100 series. The first version was 235 horsepower, and then in 2006 and 2007 they had the variable valve timing, and they went 275 and 265 horse. They're both the same motor. They just changed the rating system right then, and so there's 10 horsepower difference, same motor. The independent front suspension was a big deal. This one has torsion bars. They started getting away from the locking differentials. 98 and 99 had a rear locking differential available, nothing in the front. From 2000 on, they went to the A-Track system. And basically, the A-Track system works by, instead of locking the axles together and maintaining traction, that it applies the brakes to each corner so that you have power going to the tire that has the most traction. It's a crazy system. It works really, 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 really well. And when we get over to the 200 series, they've really, really improved it. It's just kind of evolved. They added air lumbar in the seats. In 2003, they went to a 5-speed transmission. And originally, the 4-speed transmission had 430 gears, and when they went to the 5-speed, they went back to 410s. They dropped the full floating rear axle. It has a semi-floating bolt-in axle. The shaft diameter's like 2 millimeters bigger than the 80 series in the rear. Even though it's a semi-floating system, they went with a beefier axle.
Let's go talk with the new guy.
Hey, the 200 series. This is a 2018. Has a 5.7 liter V8, 381 horsepower, 401 foot-pounds of torque. In, I believe it was 2016, they came out with the 8-speed transmission. Previously, it was a 6-speed. The traction control was upped major. The A-Track system, and they put crawl control in, and the crawl control is an amazing thing. Basically, you don't use your brakes, you don't use the accelerator, push the crawl control and set your speed and just steer. It's an amazing off-road system, especially for a vehicle of this size. As you can see, from the beginning to now, we've kind of been increasing the size as we've gone along. Pretty much every creature comfort you can imagine, navigation. It's basically a four-wheel drive luxury car.
And so when you've gone up in capability, is it improved the off-roading? Is off-roading easier now?
That's kind of debatable.
I would think
what I would, for me, I would still say the 80 series is the pinnacle. because the coil spring suspension with the solid axles, it depends on your situation though. If you're playing in the rocks, the 80 series would be kind of the pinnacle. Mud and snow, the A-Track can outdrive you. I've been embarrassed by this truck many a time. When he first, a friend of mine, Jonathan, owns this truck. When he first bought it, I had a 9900 series, and I had a rear locking differential and the ARB front locking differential that I had added. And I had more aggressive tires than he had and everything. And we were out in the hills in the snow, and I could not make it up the hill, And he said, let me give it a shot. He walked right up it the first time. And so I could follow him in his tracks because I wasn't breaking the trail. But it's kind of an embarrassing kind of thing to have happen when you're kind of a more seasoned driver and you have a more aggressive looking vehicle to have somebody pull up. And I haven't had that happen in the 200 series yet. The only 200 series I've been on the trail with 200 series twice. The last time in 2016, this one, an added feature is they have the turning assist, and what it does is it's basically like cutting brakes for the rear axle, and so it'll lock the rear wheel that you're turning in that direction. So if you're turning right, it'll lock the rear wheel to pivot the vehicle around. On this size of vehicle, it is amazing, especially if you have a trailer. It was amazing to watch it on the trail with the trailer. I watched vehicle after vehicle have to do three-point turn, and then I saw 200 series coming down with the trailer, and I'm like, this is going to be crazy. And the driver hit the turn control and pivoted right through in one shot with the trailer.
You know, all this off-road technology's got me thinking about we should go play in the mud and dirt.
We can do that.
Yeah.
We can head out to the desert.
Heck yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll be right back with more Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk.